And I think we're live. Hello, Internet. How are we all doing today? My name is Eddie Zaneski, and I have the privilege of serving as a developer evangelist at a company called Twilio, where we do some awesome things for developers and communication. And it looks like my good buddy Brent has popped into chat. So how are we doing today, Brent? Just make sure everything's set up on my end, and then we'll dive in. We're going to build some awesome web apps with JavaScript today, which is my favorite programming language. Hopefully it'll be yours too. So I'm just going to refresh this page real quick, and we'll get started. All right. So I want to start out today by building a very simple web application using WebSockets, which we'll get into more in a little bit. But if you don't know, WebSockets are a way to keep an HTTP request open longer than one iteration. So normally when we load up a web page in the browser, so we go and be like, hey, can I have google.com? The browser will be like, hey, here's google.com. The server will be like, hey, here's google.com. And then we'll stop talking. We won't really have a conversation after that. All further requests made to the page, so if I search for something, we'll open a new connection, send a new request out. WebSockets are a way to do like things in real time, so we can update events live from the server and send data back live from the server. So it's like a very persistent two-way connection. It's how a lot of chat applications work, some games that are made in the browser, and they're just generally like super fun. It's absolutely one of my favorite things to play with. So I'm just going to get started. Let's go back to this wonderful homepage. And so I'm going to create a new app on my desktop, and I'm just going to call this Totally Rad Web App. And we're going to initialize a Node project with this npm init. So Node is a server-side runtime for JavaScript. So if you're familiar at all with JavaScript, it usually runs in your browser. But for our purposes, Node lets you build web servers out of JavaScript, which is actually really cool. So that's what we're going to do. And we just initialized a brand new Node project, and I am going to start by building just a very simple like hello world web project. So to do that, we're going to install a library that I probably use all the time. So npm is this package manager for Node, and it lets us install these different little libraries that we can use and download and pretty much like not reinvent the wheel every time we go to write code. So I'm going to install this package called Express, which is a very simple, clean web framework for building web servers in Node. So this is going to go download. And if you've just joined us in the chat, please let me know whereabouts you are. I'm coming to you from Brooklyn. I think my good buddy Brent is down in Philly right now. So if you'd let us know where you are, and maybe how the weather is. It's pretty cloudy right now, but it's like a 72-degree day, so that's definitely very nice. So I've got my project set up, and I'm going to create a brand new JavaScript file. So it's going to be called index.js, and this is kind of like the entry point to our application. And I'm just loading it up in my favorite text editor, which is Vim. And it should load on up. And we are going to enable strict mode in this file. So this is like a way to toggle some like cool features of JavaScript. We just put it at the top, and like it enables it for the interpreter. The JavaScript world is very segmented. We're getting better now. But I'm going to pull in that library we just downloaded. So I'm going to require Express. So I'm going to create a new variable called Express, and I'm going to require it. And if you've done any other programming languages before, this is like importing in Java, including all these other ways to pull in libraries. In JavaScript, we require them. So I'm going to require Express. and then I'm going to get an instance of that express. So it's basically libraries in JavaScript are really just functions. So I'm going to say, hey, can I please have back an instance of that express library? So now I have this really cool little app that I can work with. And what this will let me do is it will let me define some HTTP routes on it. So routes are pretty much just where you are on a web server. So like mywebserver.com/home, or we call the root URL is just like a naked invisible slash at the end. So we're going to set a root handler for that. And let's see. M. Kraylig, thank you for the follow. Let me know in chat whereabouts you are from. Sorry if I said that wrong. So this is going to be listening for this is a callback function. So whenever a HTTP request, specifically a GET request, comes in to my homepage, so this invisible little slash at the end of google.com, I'm going to like execute this function or do these procedures that I'm going to define. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take back this res variable, and this stands for a response, and req stands for request. So the request represents all the data that's coming in from the web server, and response is like a buffer, or kind of like think about like a text file almost, that we can write data in and it gets sent back to the web browser. So I'm going to send back a hello world, which is customary for starting off with programming. And then we just have to tell our server to start listening. And I'm going to give this a port. And what a port is it's just think you're walking down like a university hallway, and there's a bunch of different doors with room numbers on them. So you have a class in like room 300B or something, where your computer has the same kind of hallways and the same kind of doors that are numbered. And these are called ports. So this is basically telling my computer like, hey, like you're going to be hosting this class, or you're going to be running this web server in room 3000 on my computer. Mansoor Emperor, thank you for the follow. Let me know in chat whereabouts you are from. And now, let's see. Give me one sec, sorry. Let me shrink this window down just a tad. Perfect. So now, I'm just going to tell my little server here, it's going to print out a message that says server is started. And these things might look confusing or fancy. These are just easier ways to define functions, like we call these lambda functions or anonymous functions in JavaScript. It's just a way of defining something like this, but it's shorthand for it, so it makes it a lot easier. You'll see me using them a bit, but if you're confused by anything, drop it into chat and I'll be very happy to explain it. And same thing up here. This is just a anonymous function that takes in 2 parameters. So when a GET request comes into my homepage, my web server is basically going to call this function and be like, hey, here's the request that came in, and here's a buffer that you can write into on the way out. So I'm sending back hello world. And just like that, I'm going to start up this web server. So let me just load up my good old Tmux friend. And should load up in a second. My computer's turning away. MacBook Pros were not meant to stream this much video sometimes, I guess. Perfect. Okay. So I'm starting up my web app. So I'm running node and then dot. So it's going to grab index.js by default. And we get that nice little message that says server started. So I'm going to pop over to my web browser. And I explain how ports work. So to get to that special port, so remember the port 3000 is where we told our web server to listen on. It is going to, in the browser, we can visit it by going to localhost :3000. So localhost is like the purple granddaddy. Thank you for the follow. Let us know in the chat where you're from. So the localhost is basically like the domain name of your computer. It's a very special like shorthand. Everyone knows that you go to google.com. Google.com is a domain name, and what it really does is it translates to an IP address. So there's like some long number behind google.com, and it's just not something that we as humans We remember words much better than numbers. So by going to google.com, your computer actually looks up the IP address of where Google's web servers are and goes there instead. Same thing with my computer. Localhost is actually a shorthand for we call it the loopback address. It actually is 127.0.0.1. And this localhost really just points to this number, which everyone's computer's home address is the same number, 127.0.0.1. Cool. So that's a little lesson on how all of that technology works. If you're confused at all, drop it into chat, and I will answer the questions. So we're hitting this web page, and we get back that hello world that our server was sending. Cool. So we know everything is up and running and working. And just to recap, what we have is our very simple JavaScript file, and it is going to, let me pause this preview. My computer's burning up right now. Fonzie T, thank you very much for the follow. Let us know in the chat where you're from, and I'm going to catch up on the chat in 1 second. So this is all it takes to basically get that web server up and running in JavaScript. It is 10 lines of code, and we could even shrink it down more if we want to. So Express is the library that we use to build web servers. We require it in, so that's the way to import it. We create a new instance of it called app, and then we tell our app to set a listener. So whenever a request comes into the slash, so it's like the invisible homepage, we're going to send back that hello world. Awesome. So now we have this really simple web server running, and I don't think this is very complicated at all. So now I want to do something with real time. So we're going to have to install a new library. But before we do that, I'm going to set up a few dev scripts that's going to make everything easier. So I'm going to install this really cool thing called nodemon. So every time we change our file, this is going to restart our web server for us. And I'm just going to save that as a development dependency. So this is going to go and download, and I'm just going to catch up on chat real quick. Oh, awesome. Very cool. TCA Stanga says, don't you need a semicolon? In JavaScript, semicolons are optional. We have this thing called ASI, which is automatic semicolon insertion. It is absolutely a holy war on how it works, whether or not you should use them. But the coding style that I usually follow is called standard JS, and it is basically just it uses a bunch of these things called ESLint rules, and it's just a very simple way to test your code if you've written it to the standard, because you can write code millions of different ways. I've been using it where I don't use semicolons. There are some times where my editor will screw up and indent things wrong because there's no semicolon. And sometimes I'll add one, but you actually don't need semicolons in JavaScript. So I'm going to run standard on this file, and it'll tell me if I didn't do anything to standard, so if I didn't match any of the coding styles. And that's going to run. Let me see this real quick. Some awesome people in the chat who write Java, JS, C++ from Seattle. Very cool. Welcome, King James. Very cool. Shout out from Long Island. Nice having you. Canada. Very cool. Welcome, welcome. C#, very cool. Learning C# very slowly as I go along. London Swift, very cool. My buddy Brent in the chat actually streams a lot of Swift. I'm attending uni computer, learning JavaScript and Node some time ago. Very cool. And ES6, you don't need use strict, it's implicit. Yes. I run into some problems where if you don't turn on strict mode, it doesn't, the node interpreter, I'm using 5.8 right now. I like to avoid all of those dilemmas, and we're going to be writing some client-side code, so if you don't use strict for that client-side code, the browser will be mad at you. It'll be like, hey, let and const aren't defined. So I just throw it in there for posterity. I usually use Babel and Webpack so I can compile all my code into one file and do all these fancy things to it. We might get there in a little bit. But good pointing that out. Very cool. And if you just joined us, let me know in the chat where you're from and if you're a developer or not. We're just building a very simple web server, and we're going to introduce some real-time stuff in a second. So I installed this nodemon thing. And I'm going to set it up so that when I restart my server, when I save my file, it is going to restart my server for me. So this is churning away. Maybe if I close out some of these windows, it'll be a little better. Very cool. All right. So my script here, this is going to be my dev script. And you'll see what this does in a second. So this is going to run node modules, bin, node mon, index.js. Cool. So now I can come back here and do npm run dev, and it's going to run that script. And nodemon is really just going to sit there and watch that file. And if I save anything new, it's just going to restart it for me. So it'll save us a lot of time in development. Now let's just make sure it starts up okay. Developer, very cool. In Italy, well, welcome. Nice having you. What kind of programming do you do mostly? Canada, very cool. Florida, going to college for computer science. That is awesome. I am coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. My name is Eddie, and I work at a company called Twilio. We might get to using Twilio in a little bit to show you some cool stuff. We play with some phones and some other technology. Cool, so my server is started. So now we have our web server, and we get back this wonderful hello world. But now I want to do something more interactive. So I am going to install this library called Socket.io. Hurtful Pillow, thank you very much for the follow. Let me know in chat where you are from. So I'm going to install the Socket.io library. And Socket.io is a library for using WebSockets in Node. So WebSockets, I explained a little earlier, are a way to keep a conversation open between a browser and a web server. So it's a way we can send data continuously back and forth and update things in real time. And they're really fun to play with. Definitely some of the most fun I've had. So this is going to install, and I'm going to pop back while it's installing, and we're just going to require that library. So we're going to say socket.io equals require, oop, I think my editor's mad, require socket.io. And then we have to change how we're doing this a bit. So we have to grab HTTP. So HTTP is the basic HTTP library for Node. I'm just going to reopen this file real quick. And this should have thrown an error. Yeah, so I see it restart our web server, and I have a syntax error. Very cool. And this is turning away. Maybe if I shrink this down to one thing. All right. So we're going to require... max retries connected. This is very upset with me right now. So we're going to pull in HTTP, and we're going to create a server. So we're going to say const server equals http.create. There we go. Create server, and we're going to give it our app. And this is app is like a listener, so we have to move our app above this. Oop. Don't get caught up too much on if this is confusing to you. But the app is like a HTTP listener interface, and our server is going to use it as like a middleware. So it's going to call all the functions on it. I can explain it more as we go along. So the other thing we have to do is we have to create an instance of I/O. So this is going to be our Socket.io library. So this is going to take the Socket.io we imported, and we're going to pass it in server. So it's going to bind that to the server. It'll sit in front and handle different connections for us. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take our app and I'm going to tell it to use a middleware. So middlewares are just like little functions that will, in Express, the request comes in and then it kind of goes down this big list of like all the possible things that could listen for that request. And it just calls functions on them. So this is going to be at the top right above our homepage. So all requests that come in are going to use this one first. So this is going to be the static middleware. And this will just serve some static files, so things that aren't going to change like our HTML page. So we'll do that in a second. And then we should also grab path, which is a library to do different things with like file systems. Okay, it's Twitch. time. Thank you very much for the follow. So inside of our static middleware, we have to tell it where our static files are going to live. So I'm going to take that path and I'm going to tell it to join a few different file names. So dir name will be the directory of our current file, and I'm going to create a folder called public. And that's where our public files or static files will live. So anything that comes in, it'll look in this folder first and be like, hey, this file exists, I'm going to send it back to you. And we can get rid of this for now, actually, because we're just going to send back a single file for now. So I'm going to make a new directory called public, and then I'm going to open up a new tab called public index.html. So now we're going to write some HTML. And I got this fancy little snippet thing, and we should give it a title. So our title is totally rad web app. And in here we'll just put like an H1 header. So this is just going to be some big text, and it will be hello world. Make sure everything works. And then flipping back, our file's started, our server's running. We should be able to reload, and we will get that HTML file coming back. And we see that big hello world. Very cool. So let me catch up on chat real quick. Friendly reminder, very cool. Do you use postget? We totally could use Ajax for real time. I just really enjoy WebSockets, and you'll see why. They're just I think in events when I do JavaScript, and WebSockets let you listen for different types of events and emit different types of events. And you'll see what events are. It's just a real easy way to think of things in a functional and evented way. Michigan last night, very cool. I'm a developer at least. From Germany, very cool. They got some people from all over the world. Couldn't you create? I totally could create a real-time web app with get and post. It would land me in a very difficult way of adding new features. We'll see. You'll see how cool WebSockets are in a little bit. This does not look like JavaScript. This is a little bit of EX6. Is basically any web app that content. Very cool. Well, welcome everyone to chat. We're going to build a real-time web app. Let me know in the chat where you are from. And I am coming to you from New York right now. So we have our web server coming back. So I'm just going to do some JavaScript in the browser real quick. Socket.io has a server-side piece and a browser piece. So there's a client and a server. So we just have to pull in the client library, which will come to us from socket.io, socket.io.js. And this is just served up automatically from our socket.io middleware that we configured right over here. This guy. So this is just like some client-side code, and we'll open up another one of these. And we'll do some inline JavaScript for now, and then we'll move it into a better way of doing things. So I'm going to turn on strict mode again, and I'll put some semicolons in here because the editor will freak out if I don't, but I usually don't. I'm still torn on it. So strict mode will enable some features in the browser, and then we're going to take a constant, and we're going to call this socket. And I/O is provided to us globally from the client-side Socket.io library. And we're just going to tell it to connect to our root server, so right where our server lives. And this will open a connection, a WebSocket connection, automatically to the server. And then down in our server, so we can take I/O on the server, and we can tell it to listen for a connection event. And then we'll call a function that takes in a socket. And then we're just going to print out a socket connected so we know it's working. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to go refresh the browser, open up the JavaScript console here and make sure we catch any errors that might happen. Refresh the page. And Chrome is just really unhappy. There we go. So refresh, and this should load up. Okay, so that's not defined. So let's see, it's socket.io, socket.io.js. Cannot get socket.io.js. All right. So I must have missed something. Let me restart this real quick. And we just installed socket.io. And we have it listening. Oh, sorry, we have to change this to server.listen instead of at. Because we're creating our own server before Express was creating one for us. So let's run that again. I've got burnt by that so many times before, forgetting to change that. Cool. So if we refresh this again, we should see that JavaScript sent back to us. Loading it up. What kind of web app am I going to build? I'm going to build a real-time, I'm going to try to build a chat room. But right now we're just making sure all of our little tools work. We might throw in some cool different APIs or features in a little bit. HTTP create server. It's the same as, yes, indeed. Very simple hello world in Node chat. I like to use Express, but you can totally do it without Express. The ES6 changes are interesting, kind of blowing the lines between JS and Coffee. So I was never a fan of CoffeeScript. I did a little Ruby on Rails in the day, but there's a lot of stuff that ES6 gives us that's just like super fun to do. Why was that loading time for JavaScript files so long? Yeah, my computer, I'm streaming on a MacBook, and it doesn't seem to be very happy with the amount of processing going on. So apologies for that taking so long. So we see a socket connected. So our client loaded up, and it opened up a new WebSocket connection right here. And then our server was like, hey, whenever a connection happens, print out a socket connected. So just like that, we have some real-time events going on in the browser. So from the browser here, we can do something with this socket. So we can emit an event. So events are emitted or listened to. And this will be a, let's just call this a drip event. Or let's just call this a hello event. And we can send data back too. So let's send back world. So this is just a string that we're going to send back. And then we'll listen for another event sent from the server, which will send us back a Doge event. And it will give us it'll give us nothing for now, but we'll just print out that we got Doge from the server. And I got burned by this very much so. I usually use ping and pong, which would make total sense for like a hello and a very simple testing. But ping and pong are reserved events in Socket.io, and they will fail silently, and you will spend like an hour debugging and not knowing what's going on. So don't use ping and pong. They are reserved. So when our browser loads up, it's going to emit a hello with the data of world, and then we're going to listen for a Doge event from the server, and it's going to print out in the client that we got Doge. So flipping back to the server, we're going to take the socket and we're going to say on hello. It's going to take in a message from the server, and we're going to print out got message from server from client, and we'll just send back message. And then we're also going to emit that Doge event back. So it'll be like a very quick ping and pong. And saving this, reloading. Server started, a socket is connected. Let's refresh. And we got a Doge from the server. And if we look at our console, a socket connection, we got a message from the client, and that message was world. So right now we have a very cool back and forth of things. And it looks like there's a lot of chat going. I got to keep up with this. No problem. I don't know whether or not... No, yeah, it's just my computer's kind of bugging out right now. Very soon. There was nothing. If the stream doesn't look good, let me know. I can always tweak it. My Dude Dog, thank you very much for the follow. Let me know in chat where you all are from. Both ways are connect. When you do console.log test, is that just like a comment in HTML? I'm not sure what you mean by that, wrapping pandas. OG, of course. JavaScript doesn't support the more complex syntax. Great idea for stream. Very cool. Thank you all for joining. So now we have our very simple and working back and forth hello. And Mr. Loris, you do not have to feel stupid. There is a lot you can learn. I will, if you have any questions, specifics, like let me know right in the chat and I will answer them. Fred Ellens, thank you very much for the follow. So cool. So now we have this very simple hello world that I'm going to just delete. And Norway, very cool. Welcome. Waller, thank you for the follow as well. What kind of framework is this? This is just JavaScript. We're using a little bit of ES6 functions, so that's why the syntax might look a little funny. And Socket.io is doing the real-time stuff. And thank you for showing programming. Very cool. Yeah, welcome from Sweden. Very cool. I do use Vim at work. I am a hardcore Vim nerd. I have Vim stickers on my laptop, which I don't think I can show you because it would probably unplug something. But yes, I'm a very hardcore Vim nerd. So cool. So I am going to delete all this stuff. And I'm going to delete this in here. And we're going to create a new JavaScript file. Actually, let's make a new directory in our public folder. So make directory public.js. And I'm going to open up a new tab in public.js. And we'll just call this, we'll call it app.js for now. And then in my HTML file, I'm just going to require that file we're creating. So this is going to live in JS, app.js. It's just cleaner to do it that way. We don't have to have inline JavaScript in our HTML. So cool. So I think the first thing we're going to do is do a just a very simple chat. So we'll have a text box, and we can type into it, hit enter, and it will appear on everyone's screen. And then we'll open it up so everyone can chat and put emojis in it, and hopefully it'll work. Let's see, Vim, Tmux, Powerline. Yes, I am a big terminal nerd. This is Node.js. I'm confused. Well, let me know what you're confused about. I'll be happy to explain it. So let's create a text box. So let's create a little div here. And then in this div, we're going to create an input tag. And this will be of type text. And to see what that looks like, we can just refresh. It's really simple to do. We just get this nice little text box. How you play this game, thank you for the follow. So we have our text box, and this is going to be our messages input. So I'm going to throw an ID on here, and this is going to be message input. And IDs are just ways to pull specific elements out of our HTML and reference them. So it's a way to like know exactly what we're looking for. So we're going to reference this message input in a second. And then I'm going to create another element. So crazy. Thank you for the follow. And this is going to be messages. So this is a div of our messages. And divs are just like little sections in HTML that you can put stuff in reference. Tebson, thank you very much for the follow. So now we have this messages div, and we are going to stick our messages in it. And this might be all of the HTML we need for now. So let's see. Back in our JavaScript, I'm going to turn on strict mode again, and that just will enable some features. And so we're going to take our socket again, we're going to grab IO and connect to it. And this will open our WebSocket. And then I'm going to grab my input box. Jokerboy12345 thank you for the follow. And this is going to be input box. And we're going to take our document, and we're going to get an element by ID. And we named it, what did we name it? Let's see. We named it message input. Message input. And this is this is our JavaScript finding our HTML and pulling it out and giving it to us that we can work within our JavaScript. Vim looks powerful. It is definitely scary-ish. It's really not hard to get up and running with. You become super productive. I use Vim bindings in all of the IDEs that I use. So when I do a little Android, the first thing I do is install Vim control keys. Brent is one of my coworkers. We're both developer evangelists at Twilio. We will use Twilio in a little bit. Emacs is cool. I checked out Spacemacs a little bit, and it was like a nice bridge. So I'm not part of the holy war when it comes to text editors, believe me. So we have our input box, and we are going to, Lednart, thank you for the follow. We are going to listen for events. So we are going to take input box dot add event listener, and this will be for the key press event. And this will take a function, and this will give us an event. And then we'll check the event.keycode if it equals 13. And someone just followed me. I'm so sorry I missed it. Thank you for the follow. I think it's keycode. Event keycode. Lowercase keycode. Okay. Cool. So 13 is the enter key. So we're going to be listening for any buttons that are pressed in that text box. And if enter is pressed, we're going to do something. So just to make sure it works, we'll print out hello. And this is a good time to, oh no, it is key code with a capital C. That's why we check things. So let's go refresh the page. Oop, I think the server's restarting at the moment. Or it's mad about something. Let's just run it this way. Server started. Refresh the page. And now I'm going to press enter, and we see that hello is typed out. So the other keys don't trigger it, only hello enter does. So that's working. So if enter is pressed, I'm going to grab the value out of that text box. And to do that, I think I'm going to print out the event real quick. I think it's target.value, which is just a property under that event. So let's see. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to get this keyboard event pressed out. And this is, for the developers in the room, this is a magical thing about Chrome. If you right-click anything you console log out that's an object, work with me, computer. If you right-click this when your computer is working, come on. Let's try again. Right-click this. Refresh. You can say stores global variable, and then you can access and work with it right from the console. So let's hit enter again. And it's making me look like a fool because it's not working. But you could normally, if things are working, right-click and say store as global variable, and it just makes things even easier. I'm not sure why that's not working right now. So let's log out. It should be, let's see. There should be a target under here. Yes, target. There we go. That's the input. And then we can grab the value. Perfect. Event.target.value. and this should print out whatever's in that text box. So let's see. Control click. I'm using this mouse that I like for some reason. I'm not sure why that right click wasn't working. So let's type in the box and say hello world, and see we get hello world printed out. So it is target value. Perfect. So let's assign that to a variable. So we're going to use let. Const and let are just different ways to declare variables, newer JavaScript versions. Zasuma, thank you for the follow. So let declares a, people use them different ways. If a variable is never going to change, I declare it as a const. If it is going to change, I just declare it as let, and we don't use var anymore because of variable hoisting. So variables used to get hoisted out of their scope into the top of the scope they're in, and it just caused tons of problems. So let is, we call it block scope, so it only exists inside of this if statement. So we'll we'll call it message. Message equals event.target.value. And so now we have the contents of that message, and we can take our, let's write a new function. So function, this will be called new message. Dan Bowman 92, thank you for the follow. And so we'll take our new, so new message is a function that will take in a message. Chill Kim Jong, thank you for the follow. And this is going to do all the things for us. So this is going to take our socket, and it's going to emit it. Slicey, thank you for the follow. It'll emit a new message event to the server with the message, and we'll get more into the specifics of how this works in a second. But for now, let's just stick it on the page. So we will, what did we call our messages? ID messages. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to say messages div equals document dot get element by ID, and we call this messages. And so I'm going to, for now, just create a new p tag, so a paragraph tag, and just stick it in that box. So we will say let p equals document dot create element, and this will be a p element. Dope Drogan, very cool name. Thank you for the follow. And so we have this new element. So this actually creates us a p tag that we can play with in JavaScript. We can set the inner text equal to the message, and then we can take our messages div, and we can append a child of our p tag. So it will just stick it in the bottom of the box. And inside here, we can call new message and give it the message. And I think this will work. Oh, and we should also clear out the box. So we can say event.target.value equals an empty string. So this will get rid of what's in the box. So cool. Let's see if that works. I'm going to refresh the page, close out that tab, and I'm going to say, still loading, hello world, and hit enter. And we see it's taken our message, stuck it in the page, and as we do this, we keep getting like different awesome things, and it clears out the box every time. So that was really easy. This is very few lines of code to make that happen. We're not even using the socket.io bit right now. We're just creating a new thing and sticking it in the page. And now let's do this with socket.io. So we have our socket.io. This is back on our server. So we'll take our socket and we'll listen for that new message event. And it will take in a function that takes in a message. And we're going to take our So we want to send this to all of our other clients that are connected. So I think that's broadcast.emit, but I'm just going to check real quick on the Socket.io docs. Liquid Juice, thank you for the follow. And I'm a little behind on the chat. Twilio is cool. I definitely like working with Twilio. We will get to the Twilio bit hopefully in a little bit. Macs aren't computers. Yeah, usually it's not this slow. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm a big... it's very hard to develop on Windows sometimes. It's getting much better. Don't get mad at me for saying that, but it's getting much better. They're doing much better. Windows 10 is great. But Unix in a POSIX system, so Macs are based off POSIX Unix kernel. It's very standard across all the Linux servers that I work with, so I like having both. Chalkity and Sigwin are very cool. Brent is a Windows dev. He's a Microsoft MVP, so anything specific to Windows, he can definitely... I missed someone. Thank you very much for following. Golden, it disappeared very quick. So, okay, let's look at broadcast. Broadcasting a message. Server socket.broadcast.emit. So this will send the message to all the other clients that are connected except ours. So we won't get the same messages. So socket.broadcast. Broadcast. And if you just joined us, let us know in the chat where you're from and if you're a developer, what kind of programming languages you like to work with. Very interested to see. I'm coming to you from Brooklyn, New York right now. And it is a very cloudy day, but it is warmer than it has been for a while. So socket.broadcast.emit. So we will emit a new message to all the other clients that are listening with the message. Actually, we'll just send the message. And I think that'll work. So now, in our client, we need to listen for that new event. So let's do that. Let's do that down. Let's do that right here. So we'll take our socket and we'll say on new message. We should be able to just call that new message function. So I'm just going to pass it in. And I think that'll work. Oh no, that will cause a loop. We don't want to do that. We should move this out. So what would have happened is we would have had an infinite new message going back and forth. So I'm just going to move that up here. And this should actually be add new message. Just make it a little cleaner. Add new. Ooh. Add new message. Add new message. Ooh, come on. There we go. Cool. Cipollini, thank you for the follow. Cool. So let me see if this works. I'm going to open 2 browser windows. Hopefully Chrome doesn't explode. My Mac is usually much more faster than this, believe me. I'm going to say hello. And we see one here. We didn't see it in this one. So I must have missed something. Let's see. There we go. No errors, no nothing. Okay. So this should... Add event listener. Socket.emit new message with the message. Let's see. Socket on new message. Socket.broadcast.emit new message. Okay, so let's make sure that we're getting a got new message. I'm going to log it out here. Oh, we had to restart our web server. I turned off NodeMon because it was potentially being slow. Okay, so coming back, we can refresh here, we can refresh here. And now it should work. Okay, so hello world. And there we go. We see it popped up right in the other side of things. And then we have like an awesome little chat room. So we can see we type in both of them. Let's see. Let's open this up to everyone real quick. I'm going to create a... so this is running on my local machine, but I can expose it so everyone can play with it. And we'll see how this goes. ngrok subdomain. Cool. So if you would all go to this address, let me drop it into chat. http://easy.ngrok.io. Everyone should be able to say something in chat and have it pop up on my screen. So let's see if it works. I'm going to open up over here. There we go. Oh, look at that. It is exploding. Hello, friend. Very cool. Whoa. So we obviously aren't like scrolling down when new messages come in. Very cool. Look at that. Greetings from Seattle. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So thanks everyone for testing that out. Very cool. So I'm gonna turn it off real quick, just so you're not making my computer any more slow. So you just got disconnected, but we'll open it back up in a second. So just like that, we just built a chat room. Like, it is not very feature focused, but with a few lines of code we did, and I think that's cool. I think that's fun. So the next thing I want to do is I want to add in the Twilio API. So those of you that were looking before or went to Twilio.com, I'm a developer evangelist at Twilio. And what that means is I get to do cool things like this and travel and talk to different people. Tonks1988, thank you for following. So Twilio is an API for communication. So we have an API that lets you do cool things with text messages. So you can send and receive text messages. Mr. Bob McWillie, thank you for following. So I'm going to make it so that instead of going to the website, you can text a phone number and it will pop up on the chat. So we're going to pull in something other than the browser. And I think this will work. This will be kind of cool. So I'm going to go to my account here. It wants me to log in. And my computer is not very happy at this, this streaming right now, so apologies. So I'm just logging in. So the way Twilio works is the basic unit of what we're going to be doing is a phone number. So we can actually just buy phone numbers. Alan Mez, thank you for the follow. So I'm going to buy a quick phone number. And I'm also going to open this Pop-Tart real quick. I'm getting kind of hungry. So I'm going to buy a US phone number. We can get phone numbers from different places. We got a bunch of different countries in here, but for right now, we'll just do a US phone number. So I'm going to buy a New York phone number because I live in New York. And I'm going to munch on this Pop-Tart. And we got some Newark phone numbers. Let's get one from Brooklyn. Clicky, clicky, clicky. Queens. All right. Very cool. I will buy this Queens phone number. And just with like the click of a button, I am now the owner of a phone number. I could put the messages at the top. That is a great idea. I should do that. We will change that in a second. So right now, if you text this phone number or call it, it's not going to do much. It'll be like a little hello world by default, but we're going to configure it to work with our server in a second. So flipping back, the way it works is we're going to take our web server, and when you text that phone number, Twilio is actually going to know where my web server is, and it's going to send me an HTTP request and be like, hey, someone just texted this phone number. Here's what they said. And it'll send it right to my web server. And from there, we have the data we need, and we can do cool stuff with it. Munch, munch, munch. So let's set that up real quick. I'm just going to read chat real quick. Throw some JS in the chat box. There would actually be no JavaScript injection there. Very, very wise of you, Glitch Garden. But I was using inner text instead of inner HTML, so that would not let you do JavaScript injection. I have done lots of WebSocket stuff in front of people before. I know how to hopefully protect from trolls. We'll see if you can hack it later. And yeah, you can just buy a phone number that easy. And you should not feel like an idiot at all. This is very straightforward stuff. It's confusing because you're newer to the scene, but there's tons of great resources for learning programming. I'm on vacation messing around with Go is tons of fun. I have done very little with it, but its concurrency model is very cool. I definitely want to do it more. So we're going to take our app and we're going to tell it to listen for a post request. So there's a bunch of different types of requests that HTTP clients and servers can do. A GET request is usually when you're requesting a resource or a homepage. DeFreaky, thank you for the follow. A post request is used when you're logging into a website. So just real quick, if we go to google.com and this is gonna make my computer really unhappy. If we search for something in google.com, so let's search for cats, and hit enter. Our browser's actually made a GET request to Google, and you see how it popped up in here with Q equals cats. Juicy Fruit. That's awesome. Nice name. Thank you for the follow. So GET requests kind of pass data in the URL, but if you log into google.com, you will not see your username and password in here. That's because the data is sent as a post request, so it's just a different way to send data as a post body. Let's see. Following along, make myself down. Wait, you can inject JavaScript without using the eval stir. When doing WebSockets and putting things on a page, you can add a script tag as your body, and if people haven't prevented it, when you can send me a script tag that's alert hello. And if people haven't protected against this, once this gets put on the page, it will execute immediately. So I've seen lots of people trolled doing WebSocket stuff live like that. So when Twilio is going to receive our text message, and it's going to post it to my web server. So I'm going to tell it where my web server lives in a second. But I'm going to say it's going to post to inbound SMS for now. And this will take in a function called request and response. So this has all of the information from Twilio inside the request, and it has everything I want to send back in the response. And we actually need to add one more library, and this is called body parser. So body parser equals require body dash parser. And what body parser is a way to interpret, for our server to be able to interpret data that comes in. So there's lots of different ways that you can send data over the internet. King James, thank you for the follow. Body parser is just a middleware. So middleware is just functions that sit in the top of our web app to interpret different types of data. Mike Rosen, thank you for the follow. So we need to use body parser. So it'll just let our server be able to read data sent from the internet. So we're going to tell it to use body parser .url encoded. So this is just a way to encode data and send it. We have to put a little extended false in here, which is just kind of convention. We might as well tell it to listen for JSON, which is just another type of data. And I don't know if anyone saw, but this is one of the reasons I love Vim so much. I can just go in here and do like a DI parenthesis for delete inside that parenthesis, and just like that, everything in there was gone. So like you kind of like learn the movements for things, and they just happen immediately in your head. So that's why I really like Vim. So just like that, our app can read incoming HTTP data. Mr. Loris, thank you for the follow. Yeah, I am getting like cotton mouth, and I'm also trying to eat a Pop-Tart at the same time. Mashi Fawn, thank you for the follow. Juicy Fruit, if I could donate for Vim usage, I would. Oh, thank you very much. Definitely not looking for donations, but I appreciate the thought. This is actually part of my job. I get to do cool things like this as a developer evangelist. So I'm happy to talk more about that later. So I'm gonna declare the body of the text message that comes in. So it's going to live in request.body.body. So there's a lot of bodies in that statement. Request contains all of the information that comes in, and it lets you just know about everything that was sent to the server. Body is what body parser gives us. So it takes all the data that's sent, because when you come down to it, all the data is really just strings, and strings are just these things inside the parentheses. Javgard, thank you for the follow. So strings are just a collection of like letters and numbers and characters in code, and when it comes to HTTP, like everything is just strings and characters. So body parser knows how to interpret that. So it interprets it, sets it as request.body. And then Twilio REST, let's see, Twilio API. And I can actually show you what all of that looks like. The variable name that Twilio sends me, or the parameter, or whatever we want to call it, is going to be body with a capital B. And I'm falling behind on chat, so I'm so sorry. Very cool. Next follow will be follow 100. Well, thank you all so much for the follows. I stream just about every other week at the same time, from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Welcome, welcome. Thank you all for joining. Let me know in the chat where you are from. If you don't like Vim but love models, Sublime Text. Yeah, Sublime does have vintage mode. Definitely used it. Fun fact, once we inherit a website, those divs had body ID. That's awesome. Yeah, my buddy Brent streams a lot of Swift and iOS, and I think Matt McKay was in the chat too. And he does some awesome Python, some iOS, I think. And yeah, thank you all so much for joining us. Okay, so back to the code. So API references. So I'm just showing you how to know what's actually being sent to us. It's not like just magical stuff. And I'm going to take a bite of Pop-Tart real quick. So, Glitch Garden, very cool name. Thank you for the follow. I think it'll live under Twimmel. So a REST API. It's under one of these for sure. Clicky, clicky. And if you just joined us, thank you so much for hanging out. Let me know in the chat where you are from and if you are a software developer or not. Receiving usage accounts. Jellydean TV, thank you for the follow. It's in one of these. Twilio's request, here we go. So this is everything Twilio is going to... Oh, that's for voice. We want messaging, sorry. Come back. Twilio's request. So this will contain all of the things that Twilio will send us. So if you're new to programming, documentation is your best friend. You want to read it and reference it when you need it. So here we see Twilio will be, whenever a text message is sent to the phone number, it's going to be like, hey web server, how you doing today? You just got a new text message to this phone number, and I'm going to send it your way. And it will send it with a bunch of variable names or parameters and values, so what they mean. So you can see from the list everything that it sends it. These SIDs are just like unique IDs for all of these different accounts or messages or other things. But the ones we care about are these three right here. So the from is actually going to be the phone number that the text was sent from. The to contains the number it was sent to, in case you are using more than one number. And the body contains the text message, the body of the text message. So as you can see, that's what we're pulling out there. So we're going to say let body equals request.body. So when Twilio sends us that text message, it's going to be like, hey, here's your text. And I'm going to, I think it's going to actually be really easy to do. We're going to take our IO, and we're going to say sockets.emit. I believe that's what it is. Let me check real quick. So before we were doing our sockets on individual sockets, so individual connections. When we were broadcasting, we were like, hey, like here, send this message to everyone else who's connected. Now this request that comes in isn't under one of our clients, so it's not one of our WebSocket connections. We have to broadcast to the whole kit and caboodle. And I believe that's done under io.sockets.emit, but I just want to check. Because remember, documentation is your friend. Sweden C# dev, very cool. My buddy Brent is a C# dev, Microsoft MVP. Programming, very cool. And if you have any questions about what we're doing, just please drop it into chat. I'm happy to help, and my buddy Brent and I think Matt might be around still. They'll love to answer and help out, and I'll answer what I can. Keep being interested. What am I building now? So I'm building a chat application. This is probably a good time to pause it. So what we have here are two awesome web pages. So I'm going to open up the same page in two different tabs. And we opened it up to the public before, and everyone was sending some awesome messages. But just to show you how it works, we built a little chat room in very few lines of code. We can type in one box, and it pops up in the other. So we have our awesome chat room. And what we're doing now is we are adding the ability for people to text in. The company I work for, Twilio, does a communications API. So we let developers build cool things that use text messages and other things. And popping back over. So we see this is still working. So I was looking up the documentation. And we want like io.emit. Sending and receiving events. Besides connect, you can also emit custom events. Redirecting yourself. Sending volatile. I believe it's either, I guess we'll just have to try out. It's either io.sockets.emit or io.emit. Let's try this way. So we'll say new message, and then we'll just send it the body. And this will send it out to all of the listening clients, be like, hey, here's a new message. So I can test this really quick. I'm going to pop over. I'm going to restart this server. And server is started. And I'm going to open a new terminal window real quick. And just move it over here and make that black. And refresh this page. And so I'm going to use this tool called curl. It's on every Mac and Linux computer. You can get on Windows by installing it. Curl just lets you make HTTP requests. You can also download Postman, which is like a very nice GUI version. It's like a client of it. But I'm just going to use curl for now. So I can make my own HTTP requests. So I'm going to make a post request to my web server, so localhost :3000. And we said it should live at inbound SMS. And we said the data should be body equals hello. Cool, so it works. So as I didn't send back a reply. So let's do that real quick. So again, this is Twilio that's going to be making this request. So inside of the Twilio world, we have this thing we call TWIML. It's some XML commands, syntax. And TWIML lets you tell Twilio what to do now. So at this point in our life, Twilio's been like, hey, web server, I hope you're having a great day. You got a new text message from this phone number. Here you go. And Twilio will just sit there and listen for a response of some sort until it times out. And so we can actually send back instructions on how to proceed or what to do next. So I'm just going to respond back with a text message that says, hey, thanks for texting. And I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to build it by hand right now in a string. But we have our libraries make it easier for you to build. But just so there's no magic, I'll show you how it's working. So I'm going to let twiml equal. I'm just going to open up a new string, and I'm going to create a new response block. She was totally 18. Thank you for the follow. So this is XML. It looks very much like HTML. They're just like open tags and close tags. And so inside of the response, we're just going to send back a message that says, thanks for texting. Fragment Shader, thank you for the follow. And if you're all just joining us, let us know in the chat where you're from. So I have a response. So now I have this string. And I have to send this back to the client. So I'm going to take my response, and I'm going to send this twiml variable. And this little Timmy22834, thank you for the follow. These little backticks here, these are template strings. In ES6, which is the newer version of JavaScript, template strings let you have multi-line strings inside of one, so it just makes things like much easier for developers. You would normally have to like put a bunch of strings together on different lines, and template strings let you do it all in one thing. So I'm going to restart the server, and I'm going to read chat real quick. What am I building now? Okay, I'm building a chat application. I showed you that one. My buddy Brent is going to hopefully stream tomorrow. He's going to build a video chat. Gilid Hatiak 69, thank you for the follow. Someone's coming from France, very cool. JavaScript. JavaScript? I definitely love me some JavaScript. Thank you for joining us. Very nice of you. You're probably gone by now, Jehovah. And I just missed whoever followed me. I'm so sorry. Oh, Smile is 013. Thank you for the follow. Okay, caught up. So let's go back real quick, and we'll refresh the page. And now we can post back hello world. Ev74, thank you for the follow. And I'm not getting a response back, and why is that? Let's see. What did I do wrong? Twiml. Response.send twiml. I did restart the server, right? Let's see. Hello from Palo Alto. Thank you for joining us from the West Coast. Alright, let's try this again. There we go. We got our response. Very cool. And I'm actually going to... we'll just bring everything up on one line. Actually, I think it'll still work if it's on multi-lines. So you see, I made that post request to my server, and these are the instructions that are going to be sent back to Twilio, and it's going to tell Twilio to respond in a text message to whoever just texted in. And so if we send a couple, let's change, instead of appending to the bottom, let's append to the top. And can I like prepend child element in JavaScript? I'm definitely not the most experienced client-side developer. Definitely learning a lot of these things. Ellen T, Ilana T, thank you for the follow. Insert before. Oh, okay. Hopefully that works. Let's see. Let's change that real quick. So previously we were, when a new message was sent, we were sticking it at the bottom of the page. I want to stick it at the top of the page. And I believe the command to do that is insert before. No, we don't want to insert before. How to set DOM element. Being a developer is a lot of Googling, so don't think this is all magic. We definitely don't have all of the answers. insert before new element. Okay, so I think, so we don't waste time on this, I can do insert before. So let's say insert before. Okay, that looks like it worked. And we give it the element we want to insert, so the p tag. And then I have my messages div. And then I can grab the, let's just do this right here real quick. And grab in our console. And like I said, being a software developer is lots of testing and messing around until you get things right. So we are not magicians. Messages div. There we go. So, can I grab child child nodes? Or can I grab children? And can I grab the first one out of there? I can. Let's make sure. ABC. Okay, cool. So I'm going to grab the children and then grab the first one. So I think this will insert it at the top of the page. And let's see if this works. Boop-a-doop-a-doo. Hello, how are you? Okay, that works. Very cool. That makes me happy. And let's do it through text message. Awesome. So now we're prepending it. So all I did was, this messages div is the container of all of those messages. So I grabbed its children here with .children, and I took out the first child from the list. So that will be the message at the very top. In programming, arrays or lists of items are zero indexed. So the first item doesn't start at index 1, it starts at index 0. So that's what I grabbed out here, is I grabbed out the first item from the children. And I told my messages div to insert before that child. So it's going to create it, add our new message to the front. So just like that, we figured out how to do something live on the stream. Today I learned too. So very cool. Thank you all for joining us, very much so. If you've just joined us, let me know in the chat where you're from and if you're a programmer or not. What we're building is a real-time application. So we built a chat room. So we have different chat windows, and this shows up on everyone at the same time. And right now we're adding a way to chat in using text messages. So I think that's cool. Hey, Eddie. Very cool. How you doing? Thank you for joining us so much. How is school going? Are you graduating this year or next year? Some awesome Fordham hackers in the room. Very cool. So now we have, I think we're actually ready to go. We can plug this into our phone number and let people chat in and send text messages for it to work. How do I use localhost, and what's the program using to code? What's the recommendation for a newbie? Localhost is just the name of your computer's personal domain name. Everyone's computer is the same thing. The port number, so the 3000 you see at the end, is just like a numbered door in a classroom. So if you're walking down the hallway in a university, all the rooms have numbers on them. Your computer has the same concept. So there's a long hallway with a bunch of numbers, and the port number is really just the room number. So we've started our web server on port 3000 down here. And in the browser, we just say, hey, on my computer, go to port 3000, and we do that with the colon. And so it just works very simple like that. And I am using Vim, which is a terminal-based text editor. It will definitely blow your mind one day once you start using it, but there's a bit of a learning curve. And Bufata TR, I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Thank you so much for the follow. So the best way to learn programming, we'll talk more about that towards the end of the stream for beginners to get started. But the best way I learn is by building things. Okay, Orson96, thank you for the follow. Okay, where were we? We were ready to open it up to the world. So now, I'm going to start up that ngrok tool again. So ngrok is this nifty little tool that lets you take your local host, so what we just talked about, like your personal computer. Vineler, thank you for the follow. And ngrok will take your local host, your local port, and it will give you a publicly accessible URL so people can access it that aren't on your computer. Louster2899, thank you for the follow. And so all we do to ngrok's free to download. You go to ngrok.com. So I've set ngrok HTTP, which is the protocol we're using, which is how things talk on the internet. Start on port 3000, and I have an ngrok subscription, so I can specify my name. Otherwise, you just get a randomly generated one. So just like that, my web server, and you see everyone just reconnected who had the page open. So the chat should work now if everyone wants to pop in. So we can go to like easy. If you go there, yeah, we can see people chatting away. Very cool. So in the meantime, I'm going to set up the phone number. So that web server, that web address I just put in chat is what we're going to put here. So for those of you who have recently joined us, Twilio is a communications API. It's just a bunch of different tools for developers to build cool things that involve communications. What we're looking at now is our API for SMS, so sending and receiving text messages. So before, with like 3 clicks of a button, we bought a phone number. We're going to put this in the page and it'll work in a second. But for now, how it works is when you're going to text that phone number, Twilio is going to send that message to my server, which we defined and we were testing around. So I'm going to put it in here, and it's going to be easy.ngrok.io, and we said it lives at inbound/SMS. And I'm going to save that. And I'm going to copy the phone number. And I'll put it in the web page so everyone can use it from there. And this is a US-based phone number. We can get phone numbers from different locations, but this is what it is right now. And so I'm just going to change the contents of that HTML tag that says hello world to the phone number. And I'm going to save that, refresh the page. Oh, very cool. Look at all this. So we built this awesome chat room. So I'm going to copy this phone number again. And hopefully I can get in amongst all the other people that are sending messages. But if you all would take out your phones and send that a text message, hopefully we will see it pop up. So I'm going to send a new text message. And I have Google Fi as my phone carrier, so I can send text messages using this little Hangouts app. Let me pause that. And I don't want to miss whoever that is. Magic Fruits, thank you for the follow. My computer is very unhappy at all of the things happening. So, hello world from Eddie. And if I send that text message, there we go. It popped up really quick. And see, I got back that thanks for texting. So the way that worked was Twilio says, hey web server, how you doing today? I have a new text message for you, and it hands it all off. And then my web server responds with what we call TWIML, which is XML commands that Twilio knows how to use. And the simple commands we said is everything starts with this response, and the command was to send back a message. So just like that, Twilio interpreted these instructions and, as you saw, immediately sent back a message. Very cool. So now we have an awesome chat room. And I'm pretty happy with this. Does anyone have any questions about where we are now? And then we can take it to the next level. So love to answer some other questions if you all have some. And like a very beginner friendly. I was originally going to school to be a math teacher, so I'd love to explain anything the best way that I can. Time for CSS. Sure, we can do some CSS. I am terrible at design, like absolutely terrible. My buddy Brent, that's in chat, is the person I go to whenever I need anything design done. Well, maybe we can come up with something that looks cool together. Noxium Vulpus, thank you for the follow. That's a pretty nifty name. So I'm going to make a new directory in my public folder. We'll call it CSS. And if anyone who's wondering, this Vim is this like text editor that lets me do fun things in the terminal. But if you put a little bang here and then a command, this will like exec it out. So it'll actually execute on the command line. So that's what I just did. I just created a new folder without leaving here. So I'm going to open up a new tab in public CSS, and we're going to call this app.css. You see I typed JS because of my favorite programming language. Okay. So we have our CSS file, and let's see. So we should do a few things. We should probably well, we're going to need a class on this type of this p tag. So the class is so there's different ways to identify HTML elements. IDs, you only can have one per page. It is a very unique way to find a specific element. So you see up here we are getting elements by ID. Classes, there could be multiple elements on the page that have the same class. So it would be a way for us to identify a group of elements that share the same properties. In our case, our messages, all of these things here are going to be have their own class on them. So I believe we do that with p dot, let's see, I know it's like set class of element JavaScript. And if you didn't catch me saying this before, being a developer means you Google things all the time because no one is an expert and none of us know everything. We just spend a lot of time on Google. Cubics Rube, very clever name. Thank you for the follow. So let me catch up on this chat real quick. With JavaScript lasting most of the features, it gets hard to develop large scale, but I'm wondering what this is in your opinion. So Zoltralord, great question. Object-oriented programming is definitely a different paradigm. I'm a big fan of functional programming, which we're not really doing right now. The JavaScript community is moving towards that. But JavaScript actually just added classes to the latest version. So we have ES6 classes. Now you can actually declare a class with a constructor, and it looks very object-oriented. So they're catering to, they want JavaScript to be an everyone language. They don't want it to just be a functional or a web developer language. So great efforts are being made to make it more inclusive and welcoming. Interfaces. So interfaces. TypeScript has interfaces, which is a superset of JavaScript made by Microsoft. TypeScript is really cool. You might like it out a lot. International text. We will get international text at some point, hopefully. We can just buy another phone number. Zoltralord. Greetings from Germany. Very cool. Thanks for joining us, Cubics Rube. Got some awesome people in the stream. This is making me happy. So dot class name. Okay, we're on a very long tangent of that one. So I just set dot class name, and that's how we get it. So class. Oh, and it would have auto-commuted there. So we'll just say. We'll say this is a class of message. Cool. So now, let's see. We'll just add a little CSS to show how it's done, but I am not a design person at all. So let's go back to our HTML page. Let's add a link tag at the top. This is how we include JavaScript. So this will live at css/app.css. And if we pop over, let's just make sure it works real quick. So we're going to say message. And so classes are represented with dots, so the periods, and IDs are represented with the pound sign or hash sign. So it's just a way to like identify those elements we talked about. So like these are called CSS selectors, so a class or an ID. And there's also a bunch of different fancy ways to do things. So let's just say that this should be, what should a message be? Let's say like text size. Is that a thing? Let's do like 24 pixels, just to see if it works. So if I pop over, and if you've all just joined us, thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know in the chat where you're from, and if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. What we built is a real-time application. If you go to this URL, you can chat along. This is running off my local machine right now, and it's just a very cool chat room. So let's see. Refresh the page, make sure I didn't mess anything up. Hey, so and it looks like I didn't do something right. Dot message. Let's make that like 36 pixels. Index. So we have our style tag. Class name is set message. Let's see. Let me inspect this element. Let me inspect this element right here. Ooh. Come back. You're too fast for me. Oh, okay. Unknown property name. So it's not text size. CSS. Oh, it's font size. Thank you very much, Engage Design. Team win. Very cool team win. So let's change to font size. And we'll refresh. Cool, so that should work. Our CSS should be great. Thank you so much, Engage Design. And, oh, I'm sorry, I missed it too. Sinica, thank you for helping as well. Oh, there we go. Look at that. That's a bigger text message. Hey, cool. So that is working. Sorry. Okay. So let's, I guess we should add some padding, right? So there should be like, it should be nice, too big. Okay, so let's make it smaller. So if you have suggestions for the CSS, drop them into chat. I'd love to know. I am not a web designer. Very happy to take some stuff, some answers. TypeScript extends JavaScript, but not in the sense that allows me to do. Oh, okay. Social, I am a big fan of the JavaScripts. I assume it's definitely not for everyone, but it's definitely getting better. You should check out some of the newer ES6 stuff I was talking about. But is there anything else that like specifically bugs you about it? What am I coding? I'm building a real-time chat application. Good evening. Briefing on the project. Okay, so I'll go over a overview of what we're building. So we've actually built most of it out already. We can always add in new features and do fun things. So what we built was a real-time chat room. So we built our own chat, very hacky, very simple, very few lines of code to actually get done. So I'm using JavaScript is my favorite programming language, so we're building something with JavaScript. We're using Node.js, which is a server-side runtime for JavaScript. And it lets us run our JavaScript on the server. So before, JavaScript used to only be a client-side language, and now we can do fun things with it. So we've imported a few dependencies that help us build this app and build a web server. We've set up a few middlewares. So middlewares are just like preprocessors for functions. And so we'll talk about the SMS part in a second, but let's talk about the socket part. So Socket.io is this library that lets you easily use WebSockets and other real-time aspects of communication. So it's very event-driven. So events, we have event listeners and event emitters. So an event is just some arbitrary type of event that happens. So in this case, on this line, this is the connection event. This is triggered whenever a new person opens the browser window and the socket connects. And that is done. So now this is our client-side code. IO is the client-side library that's added. It's required in a script tag. And we create a new socket, and we say, hey, connect to the root of this URL. Fire Spirit 11, thank you for the follow. And so this is how we establish our connection. So as soon as that happens and the connection is established, this basic function gets triggered here. So this is like a callback function. It's a little fancier syntax. These are called fat arrows. It's a way to make things easier for developers when they're writing JavaScript. And then we listen for this new message event. So the socket comes in. This is the actual socket connection. So this is the individual that is connected to the server. And we set an event listener on that individual socket. So when a new message is sent from the client, and we'll look at that in a second, it is going to call this function and pass in that message. So you can see this is the actual function here from this little block to there. A highway to hell, thank you for the follow. And so the first thing we did was print out to the console, got new message. You can see the fruit of that command here. And then we took our socket and we broadcasted. So you can address all the sockets in different ways. Highway to heaven, thank you for the follow. Very cool. I'm wondering if these are the same people, or do you guys know each other, or that this is just very coincidental that highway to hell and highway to heaven happen at the same time. Very cool. So we take our individual socket, Maplitisek de Mont. Thank you so much for the follow. I butchered that. I'm so sorry. Bearded Designer 31, thank you for the follow. Okay, so we take our individual socket. So this is the individual client that is connected, and we tell it to broadcast and emit. And all that really means is we want this socket to send. We want to send a message to every socket that's connected, but the one that just sent it to us. So basically everyone else but me. And that just makes sure that we don't trigger the same events twice. So when a new message comes in from the client to the server just kind of like reflects that and mirrors it to all the other clients using this command. So it says, hey, everyone else, you got a new message. And that's all of our web server code. We'll talk about the text message bit in a second. Our HTML is very simple and straightforward. This is the H1 you see, so that phone number. Like I said, we'll talk about the phone number in a second. Here's our input. That's the box you're typing in, excuse me. And here's our list of messages, so all of those individual messages that come up. And here's our other JavaScript files. So that's the socket.io library I was talking about. And here's our app.js. And this is the app.js. So the first thing we did in here is we created two variables, and we grabbed that input box and that messages div. We grabbed those by the ID of the HTML. These are called CSS selectors, so it's just a way to identify specific elements in your HTML using JavaScript code. So you see I defined the little ID here. It's just a very easy way to pull out specific things. So I grabbed both of those, and I took my socket that's connected, and I set a listener on it. And I said, hey, like whenever you get a new message from the server, call this function called add new message and pass in that message. And that just looks like this. So we create a new p tag. So p tags are just paragraph tags. It's just a way that you can put text in a little HTML element. We set the inner text to the message that was sent. We set the class name of the message, so we can do some CSS on it in a bit. And then we take our messages div, and we insert it at the top of the div. So that's why they're showing up at the top now. Before we were appending to the bottom, and that wasn't very fun. So based on some awesome suggestion, we changed it to happen at the top. So we stick at the top of it the p tag we just created, and the second parameter here is what you stick it before. So we just grab the first child, so whoever is the first message, we stick our new message above it. Our input box, we add another event listener for a key press. So these are actual built-in events now, and the key press is really just anyone typing in that box. And what we do is we check if the key code equals 13. And 13 is the key code for the enter key. And really, this is just, everyone knows 13 is the enter key. You just kind of memorize it. So whenever someone presses enter in the box, we grab when the event happens, it calls this function we give it here, and it passes in the actual event. So whatever actually occurred. So again, we were checking the key code. So we grab the target out of the event, so where the event actually happened, and then we grab the value out of the target. So the value, the target's actually just this input box that's up here. These are basically the same variable. So it grabs the value, and the value is just like what was actually in the box. And then we take our socket and we emit the new message, which we saw before, and we just give it that new message. And then we call our add new message function again. So we're actually reusing this in the two places. And then we set the value of the target. So set the what's ever in the text box to just an empty string. So it can be basically reset for the next person. And that is all of our code to do the chat room. The other thing we looked at was we added SMS to it. So the company I work for is a company called Twilio. We have APIs. APIs are really just they're ways for developers to take something awesome that they've built and make it easy for you to add to something you're building. So in our case, Twilio is an API for communications, and they have an API for text messaging. So we were able to take that API and add it to our app. So our app was actually now able to use text messages like without us having to worry about how to do that. So the way that works is on Twilio we have a phone number, which is the same one you saw here. And that phone number actually just gets configured with the where my web server lives. So the URL you all are on is easy.ngrok.io. You can go here and join us in the chat. And you'll see the same page that we had on screen, and you can partake in the chat. And this is just like a different route on there. So whenever a new text message comes into that phone number, Twilio will get the text message and look up this URL in this box and be like, hey, how you doing, Mr. Web Server? I hope you're having a great day. I have a new text message for you. Here you go. So it sends that as a HTTP request to the server. The server receives it right here in this little block of code. See, it's the same route. And all it does is it pulls out the body of the text message, which is just a variable named body. And then it takes our sockets and it sends it to all of them this time. And it says, hey, everyone, you all have a brand new message. Natalie Patrice, thank you for the follow. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, by the way. I hope you're learning something. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. So the sockets all get a new message event, which is why it shows up for everyone at the same time. And then so HTTP requests work with a request and a response. So for every request, there's usually one response. And so we have to send something back to Twilio that was nice enough to deliver us a new text message. And we give it TWIML instructions. So it's some XML commands that tell Twilio like what to do next. And in our case, we're sending back a text message that says, thanks for texting. As you can see, we have a response and then a message instruction. And then we just send that back to Twilio. And that's it. And then if you didn't see before, we can open up our chat. There's some crazy stuff going on here. And I'm just going to text it, hello from Eddie again. And just like that, it gets sent out. It pops up here. And I got my reply back. So really easy. You don't actually have to know anything about how text messaging works to use it. I definitely enjoy the company. It's really cool stuff. So cool. So hopefully that's a good primer on what we built. Does anyone have any questions or suggestions on what they want to see or what we want to do next? We built this out pretty quick, actually. We've only been working on it for the past hour and a half, I'd say, maybe even less. So drop them in chat. I'm going to eat a Pop-Tart real quick. Highway to Heaven asks, how often do you do this type of stuff? I I work as a developer evangelist at Twilio. Our mission there is to inspire and equip developers. So it's a lot part of education, doing some awesome community stuff, some events. One of the initiatives we're doing is trying to help reach people that we couldn't reach before. So we're trying to do more streaming to provide some cool information like this. So I stream every other week, Thursday, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern. But there's a whole slew of other people on my team who are also streaming. Yes, actually, we will make this downloadable. I'll do that while I'm talking, actually. So I do this quite often. How often I build these kinds of things? I do it quite a lot. A lot of the work I do is very small, simple projects for beginners to get started with. I write a lot of blog posts. You can find some of the blog posts I've written, and actually the whole team is written on twilio.com/blog, and I'll drop it into chat. And I will catch up on all the other questions that came in a second. So there's a bunch of good content on here, a bunch of good stuff for beginners. Somewhere on this is a list of authors, or if you search for my name, Eddie, at the top in the search box, you can see all the blog posts I wrote, but this has tons of awesome content on how to get started and build different things with programming. You can see different languages here. So definitely check out twilio.com/blog. So I was putting this online for everyone to see, so Git in it. So Git is a version control software. It is a way to kind of track different parts of your application. And that was a really bad explanation. But it's a way for you to version out your code, so you can have kind of like checkpoints. You have different checkpoints of your application. So if you ever screw anything up royally, which happens all the time when you're a programmer, you can go back and fix it. You can share it with the distributed team. So I'm going to put the code in a Git repository. So I'm just going to stick this little git ignore in here. Don't worry too much about what this does. This is just going to ignore some of the files that I don't want put up there that are just garbage. So let's add this git ignore. I don't want those swap files either. Swap files are just .swp. It's just a temporary file for the text editor I use. So I'm going to ignore star.swap. So star is like a wildcard in programming usually. Instity, thank you for the follow. So we can see git status. Okay, I think this is good, and I don't think I have. Normally, you want to make sure you don't have anything personal in here. I don't think we do. I think we're okay. And that phone number is just an arbitrary phone number, so we can leave it. I own it now, but it'll be taken down at some point. So let's do. We can add all the files here, and we can commit them. So committing is just saving them, so we'll call this initial commit. All right. And now I'm just going to create a new repository on GitHub, which is just it's a site where developers can share all their code together. Bufata TR, could you maybe do a little registration thing and usernames while you chat? Yeah, we can actually do that. That's actually pretty simple to implement. We'll take a look at this. This is my GitHub site. All my code projects are on here, so I'm just going to create a new repository. You did a very good job at explaining things. Melvin Hounds, thank you very much for the compliment. I appreciate it. I hope you learned something very cool. Highway to Hell, also, if you want to learn code, I'm a super noob. Where would I start? Okay, we'll definitely answer that question. We'll spend a bit of time on it. I don't want to half-ass it right now. You have mastered the art of eating while streaming. You barely made any sense. Well, thank you very much. I have this fancy microphone, so I'm sure that helped with that. So, okay, what should we call this? We originally called it Totally Rad Web App. I want to put a name that's identifiable, so we'll call this Twitch live chat SMS node app. That's a good name for it. And we can add a license to it. Licenses are just ways to do the things with the stuff. It's just we have licenses for code just like with media. MIT is just a very anyone can do whatever the hell they want with this. So I'm going to grab this URL, and I'm going to git remote add origin and add that URL. So now my local thing knows where that lives, and I can pull in origin master. So don't worry too much about these commands. Git is a different world to learn. It's definitely confusing, but I'm just basically merging in and connecting everything together. So git push amend. Git log. We'll just push that up. So we'll push up origin master. And let me edit this README real quick. So this will just show up on how to do it. It'll be some instructions. I'll have to go back and add more because obviously I can't do it all right now. So we'll say this is Markdown. This is an easy way to write HTML markup. So install npm so you want to git clone it. So git clone that, and then you're going to want to install the dependencies. So npm cd into this directory. Delete this. Okay, and then you're going to want to npm install, and that will install dependencies. And then you can run node index.js. Okay. And that'll be good for now. I can add more in a little bit. I don't want to waste too much time doing that. Update readme markdown git push origin master. So I'm pushing up that code, and now I can actually go here. You'll see that all that code is pushed up. Those instructions are all on one line, so I'll have to go back and fix that. But I'll drop it into chat. And this is all the code that we wrote today. And we'll add more as we go along. I have to walk away. Will I be able to watch this again? Yes, Highway to Heaven. Please join us again in the future. I stream every other week, the same time, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. Brent streams a bunch. My buddy Sam streams the other weeks that I don't at the same time. So there's tons of people streaming. Hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up on just anywhere. Happy to help with all things. But thank you for joining us. So that's all the code that we have. And our good buddy Buffatra TR. Am I saying your name right? Please let me know. I'd hate to keep butchering it. Thinks that we should add a way to do our usernames, and we'll do that actually because it'll be pretty simple. I don't want to miss the part about where we're about to start. I'm a noob. Oh yeah, definitely. I'll definitely talk about that, and this should be archived. Oop. Hopefully that didn't disappear. Okay, hopefully my screen is still there. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about that and how to get started. Too long didn't read, a good thing. You can go to codecademy.com. This is a website I point everybody at. Codecademy.com is free. They have tons of great stuff. They have a good JavaScript track, so you can look about, you can learn how to do JavaScript, which is the programming language I used. Super awesome website. Definitely check this out. But we'll talk more about resources later. But this is the TLDR for you right now. Awesome. I'm glad I'm saying it right. Do you stream only coding or do you play games? I do not play many games anymore. Back in the day, I used to play a lot of WoW. Did a ton of raiding, a bunch of tons of WoW raiding. I played League for a little bit, but now I really just write code. I live with my girlfriend, and she, likes to hang out too, so I don't want to keep her bored all the time. But games are fun. I play the occasional PS4 as a console peasant, so you know how it is. So we're gonna add in a username box. So all right, this will be cool. So this will show how to refactor and actually add a new feature to existing code. So let's do a new input. So I'm going to put this here. So we'll say username input is the ID of this. And in my JavaScript code, I'm going to grab it the same way we grab this one. So we'll grab username input. And in our CSS, we can actually use our CSS file. No, that'll be fine for now. We actually don't. Never mind. Sorry, I led you astray. So we have to change the name of this. So this will be username box. Okay. So let's hide our input box by default. Let's do that up here. So we'll say input box will be display none. This is how we hide something in CSS. So our input box won't be there at first. And we'll need a username. So let's say placeholder on it equals please. Ooh, who was that? Melvin Hans 216. Thank you for following. Please enter a username. Okay, and I think placeholder is the name of that. Let's see. Oh, okay, and this box isn't hidden. So why is that not hidden? What did I do wrong? Oh, message. Oh, it's message input box. Wait, what is it? I'm goofing myself here. Message input, yank inside, okay. Change to curly brace, paste. Oop. Message, oh, what am I doing? I'm scrubbing out. Message dash input, okay, we can do this. Message dash input, okay, so now that box should be hidden by default. Was JavaScript the first language I learned? From Maxime Volpes. JavaScript is not the first language I learned, actually. So I was originally a math education major. So I was going to school for 2 years. I had never programmed before. And because of the math degree, I had to take an intro to programming course. And that was actually in C++. And my dad is a old school mainframe developer. And he, I never wanted to do nerdy computer stuff like he did, so I never got into that. But the class I had to take actually was the most fun I'd ever had. Like, I had never been creative, I could never build things. But programming gave me a way to build things that I could do. And it didn't matter how they looked like at first. So I had a year of C++, and then I transferred schools, changed majors to computer science, and I learned Java there. Did all the intro classes over as a computer science major, learning Java. While learning Java, I started learning Ruby, which is a very beginner-friendly programming language. And Ruby on Rails is a great web framework, so I started learning how to build websites using Ruby on Rails. And because of Ruby on Rails and building websites, I eventually had to learn JavaScript, and I fell in love with it even more. Just the way it's done, it's just so much fun to write, and yeah. So JavaScript was not the first language I learned. It was the third or fourth in that list, but it definitely became my favorite. And since then, I've picked up a ton of languages. The more languages you learn, the easier learning a new language becomes, because you see the same patterns repeated in different places. So perfect example, I said I knew Ruby. At my old job, I had to learn Perl, which is a scripting language, and I actually picked it up rather quickly because Ruby took a lot of how Perl works from Perl when they were making Ruby. So I was like, oh yeah, like I totally, it's like, oh, I know how this works because Ruby does it very similarly. So that happens more and more with every language that you learn. And yeah, Perl was a very interesting experience. I actually deployed a package to CPAN, which is Perl's package manager, and my beard immediately grew to the floor, and the thunder roared, and I was a graybeard. That's a story for another day. So that was a good question. Thank you for asking that. Back in my old day. I'm 25 years old, so I definitely grew up on the Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64 and all the fun things. Anyone got tips on how to become a pro and work at Google? So Google has tons of internship opportunities. They love hiring beginners. They have summer camps and other things. Really just like find something you enjoy doing when it comes to programming and stick with it. I immediately fell in love. Most people that I know who like programming fall in love with it. It's just so cool to be able to build something out. And software is becoming more and more used in the world. So give a start to learning different things. And Zogot's got a good link in there too. Learn X and Y in minutes is good. Noxium Vulpes is just starting out. It's an old C++ book I borrowed, but Java seems much more user-friendly. This is the first taste I've gotten of JS, but I can see similarities already. Yeah, I mean, JavaScript has C-like syntax, so a lot of it's the same. The Java's a pretty good programming language. Java 1.8 brings a lot more improvements to the language, but it's still not used everywhere. Like Android, for example, is written in Java, but it still only uses like Java 1.7. But Java's getting better. They're doing some cool stuff up in there. So now we have our username box. And we want to be able to set a username real quick. So let's copy this. So we'll put this above here. So we're going to say username box, add event listener. So we're going to listen for the same thing. So the key press 13. So this is just the enter key. So inside the username box, if you push enter, and my editor's janking me out here. Let's fix this up. Okay, there we go. Cool. Ooh. All right. So if you type a username in the box and hit enter, we're going to want to set your username. So let's say so we'll start off with let username equal null. So this will be just an empty username at first. And we're going to want to grab the username, so we'll reuse this code. Name equal, grab that out. And we'll say username, actually, let's just do it here. So we'll just say username equals that. So now we'll have a username. And we should hide our username box, and we should hide our username box, and we should show our input box. Antimatter Tape, thank you for joining us very much. Whereabouts are you from? Are you familiar with Twilio at all? So I want to, so username box dot, let's see, how do we do this manually? So we can say username box capital B. So username box, and I want to set a style on it. So style dot set property display none. Will that work? Oh, that works. Cool. So we can say username dot style dot set property, and we're going to set display to none, which will hide the username box. And we should show our messages box. So let's make sure that works. So messages div dot style dot set property display. Actually, I think we want to. Can we remove property? Let's see. Remove property display. BNU Gaming, thank you for the follow. Cool. So it is remove property. So remove. Oh, I'm janking out. Remove property. Cool. And so now I'm going to refresh. So when we type a username in, it should save our username. And then we should see our messages again. So my username is Eddie. And we didn't see that. Smith Johnson, thank you for the follow. So why didn't we see our... why can't we see our messages div? Messages div dot style dot get property value display. So it's not there, but it's not shown. Oh, because it's not our messages div, it's our input box. There. So input box. Okay, sorry about that. What IDE is this? This is Vim. It's a terminal-based text editor. Can we change the font? I am a big fan of this font, and I will show you why I'm a fan of this font. Because you see this eye right here? That looks like a zombie. And this is the Adobe Code Source or Code Source Pro or something font, and I've been using it since it came out, solely because the eye looks like a walking zombie, which is a great reason to use a font. The font on the web page. We can totally change the font on the web page, though. Who wants to help me test my Node app? Yeah, we can definitely help out with different apps. You can hit me up on Twitter too after the stream. What is that? No, the font on the web page. Sorry, I misread it. But yeah, so I like this little walking zombie guy. But we can change the font in a bit. So let's see. Does this work? So my name is Eddie, and I refresh. I don't know if I did. Pick a username, Eddie. Okay, still not seeing that. Input box dot style that remove property display. Let's see. Let's manually edit this HTML. And if anyone knows what I'm doing wrong, please let me know. I'm a scrub sometimes when it comes to HTML. So let's see. Why is this so far down? How did this get so big? Okay, there we go. So here's our div, here's our username, our input messages. Okay. So it's still set to none. Oh, because CSS is overriding it, that's probably why. Show. Toggle hidden JavaScript. Let's see. Let's see. I don't want to use jQuery. The best way to get started with coding. We can talk more about that towards the end of the stream for sure. I like your Z-Stim. Although it's kind of disgraceful running on Mac. I love my Mac. Definitely a big POSIX-based developer. And thank you for appreciating my Vim and Zeesh. I got a little Tmux in there too. Certified Java programmer. Very cool. That's awesome. Some awesome people in here. Style. Oh, okay. I can just set display. So let's get rid of this. Maybe this will work. Set display equals none. Style dot display equals empty string. And input box username. All right, let's see if this works. We won't waste much time on this. So I got my username. It's still not working. Why not? Message input. I'm going to get rid of this for now. And we'll just set it manually up here. So we'll say input box dot style dot display equals hidden. So we'll hide it manually up here. And then down here we will show it. So let's try this again. Alright, oh, what am I doing wrong? Input message input. It's still there. What am I doing? Input box. Message input. Display. I'm not actually sure what's going on. You need to set it block so that it inline overrides the CSS. Inline style imported. However, if you set display to empty string, the imported will apply. Oh, that's great to know. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay. So this should be input. This should be set to hidden at first. And display should be set to blocks. Okay, so let's see. Display none. Ah. Yes, display none. Thank you. Okay, okay. Display none, display blocks. Okay, so hopefully this works. CSS 101. Yeah, I am not a front-end developer by far. So thank you all so much for being patient and teaching me all the awesome things. High five to everyone in SAV Forged who've helped out. Really appreciate it. Everyone who threw something in there. It was a team effort. Great job. Today I'm learning a bunch of stuff about CSS. Cool. So now we have our input box and we have our messages. Very cool. So let's see. I'm a React developer, and most of the time I don't do much styling on that. So it's just like front end. Awesome JavaScripty things, but I need to learn that at some point. I'm definitely lacking in the CSS department. But cool. So we have a input box that hides now and shows. So we can grab the username, and then we can. So this will be definitely like bypassable, but we're going to tweak our message event that we were doing to have the person's username. So it'll show up as username colon the message they sent. So let's see. So we'll do that here. We'll say okay, I want to make sure we don't miss a few places. So we're going to emit a new message. So we'll emit an object this time, and we'll say username is going to be username, and message is going to be message. And we can actually leave out, because we're using ES6 features, we can actually leave out the key of this. So we can say username message, because the key is the same name as the variable name. It'll do that for us. So it's really cool and nifty. So we're going to emit a new message with a username and a message. And we call it username, right? Yes. Perfect. And so now we need to tweak where we're using that message. So now ooh, someone just followed me. I'm so sorry I missed that. PPC Cupquake, thank you for the follow. So we should let's do this. Let's do let data equal username message, and then in here we can just send data, and then here we'll send data. Little Waffle, thank you for the follow. And then here we'll take in data, and we'll say inner text should be message, should be data dot username plus a little colon, and then data dot message. All right, that'll work for now. And where else were we using that? That might work. Where else is our event listener? Let's see. Dwaba, thank you for following. So I'm going to refresh real quick. We have to restart our server. Do we have to restart our server? Let's see. We might as well restart it. It's been a while. I don't think we have to restart it, though. And everyone's trying to reconnect automatically here. There we go. Now it's great. Okay, so come back over. Enter a username. So I am Eddie, and I'm going to say hello. And just like that, our username is working. So our good friend, let me go scroll up to get your name real quick. I'm sorry. Buffata wanted to add usernames to our application. Thank you for following Geek Squade. And now we just added like a real quick and simple way to do that. So I'm going to catch up on the chat real quick. Get Bootstrap. Yes, Bootstrap all the CSS. I put 100% width and height as well as margin 0. Makes things so much neater. Hey, are you running a Windows machine as your environment or just like switching monitors? I am running on a Mac completely. I'm running off a MacBook Pro 13-inch. So it is chugging along. I might have to tweak to get it to stream smoother. We'll find out. jQuery is a great library. When you define the height of an element percentage, some cool tips in here. Does not mean you're no problem. I have a web development degree and I suck at JavaScript. I'm sure you're ramping it up. Vanilla.js is the best JavaScript framework. I agree with you completely. Antimatter tape. Sysadmin struggles with simple if-else regex. JavaScript is definitely a new world to get. And let's see. If you start, learning programming is actually very easy to do. We'll go over some tips on how to get started. Sojourn78, thank you for the follow. Can you guys link the site again? It is http://easy.ngrok.io. So you can join in and chat with us right there. Or you can send a text message to that phone number on the screen and it'll show up too. We added some cool Twilio features in. What is your preferred programming web server language, Eddie? Thank you for joining us, Joaba. I am a JavaScript developer at heart. I love me some Node, love me some JavaScript. The evented model is what gets me the most. I just love thinking asynchronously and with events. We got some undefined. Some people are exploiting the code. Very cool. That always makes me happy to see people hacking the code. You can try some JavaScript injection, but I don't think it'll work. I think we went around that. And see here, we got on the server, we were printing out all those messages. So there's like our username and everyone who's sending it around. So it's definitely not the most secure web app right now, but it works. It does some cool stuff. And we're actually, so HTML elements won't work because we're setting inner text on this instead of inner HTML or HTML. I've been trolled before, believe me, doing like piping data right into the browser. So I've learned to hopefully get around it. But if you can figure out how to do it, that'd be rad. We'll see. Someone is me. Thank you for pretending to be me. Very cool. Does anyone else have any questions while we're at this point? We might start winding down. We can talk about how to get started with programming. But drop any questions you have about anything into the chat, and I'm happy to answer and talk more. Joaba, are you a software developer at Twitch? What kind of languages do you like writing the most? I know you guys are like an Ember shop, do some cool stuff in the client. But I like JavaScript. I like writing Node for server code. There's a bunch of other programming languages that I write and I enjoy. I like writing Go. It's Macker, thank you for following. Go. I've been into Clojure lately. Done PHP, Java, Ruby. The only thing I really haven't done is Python. Mostly backend guy. Ruby by trade, Elixir by passion. So I was deciding very heavily between Elixir and Clojure when I was learning a functional concurrent programming language like that. I wound up deciding on Clojure because my old roommate is a Clojure developer and convinced me. But that's cool. I will have to look at Elixir one day. Very cool. And I guess Twitch is a Ruby and Rails shop then, right? What else are people saying? It's like best right code. Come on. JVM hurts me. I definitely get that feel. I'm learning Android slowly. Slowly learning more Android. The JVM is definitely, crushing on in. Kotlin, whatever, Kotlin, looks pretty cool when it comes to writing Java now. There's no E at the end of that. So I was looking at this briefly, but I definitely like learning new programming languages. Like, I am not against any of them. There's a tool for every job, and you use the best one when you can. We're split between Ruby and Golang. Well, that's cool. I don't get to write enough Go. Very cool concurrency model. Clojure is very similar in concurrency model. They have similar Go routines with the same kind of method to invoke them called Go. But that's cool to know. Node.js, I really like JavaScript. I really like Node. Brent does some awesome stuff as well. Swift, Ember, Ruby, some C#. I'm just over my chat. Xamarin. Eddie, do you support open source software? I absolutely support open source software. All the tools that we're using today are actually open source software. So big fan of those. I definitely contribute to projects when I can. I have a bunch of open source projects on my GitHub with different examples on how to get started with different things. Let me drop a link in there. I think there's one down below. But yeah, definitely the world would not run without open source software. Definitely try to help out when I can. PR every now and then. But yeah, the world would not run without it. So I'm going to close out all these tabs. Dan Jessen, thank you for the follow. We got our config, our totally rad web app. I don't think you can break it. So does anyone else have any other questions? We can start winding down. For those of you that are in the room and are wanting to learn more about programming, I just apparently sent some Zalgo to the screen. It might creep out of our monitor at some point, but very cool. I'm curious, does emoji work? Let's see. Let's check that real quick. Let me send some emoji to the server. And then we'll talk about resources for learning how to program. But if you have questions, please drop them into chat and we will absolutely answer them. Let's grab this message. So I use Google Fi for my text messaging. My phone service, so I can send text messages through Hangout. I'm going to send an emoji. I don't know if it'll work. I don't remember seeing any before. My computer's wigging out. Let's send. Where's the thumbs up? There we go. Come to me, thumbs up. Okay, I missed it somehow. I'll just send that. That should turn it into a... Thanks for texting. Oh, it looks like something broke. Did somebody figure out how to break it? I'm going to refresh the page. Let's see. Let's look at the console real quick. Oh, yeah. Look at all that Zalgo. Whoa. It looks like the server is still running. I'm going to restart the server real quick. Oh, some emojis are working. A little Unicode. I'm going to restart the server. Okay, everyone's reconnecting. Gotta refresh. See, figure out how to make WordPress sites. WordPress is a great tool for building sites. Definitely the real Eddie. Yo. Okay, that's working. So let's send a thumbs up. Oh, so the texting isn't working actually. We gotta fix that on the server. But yeah, WordPress is a great tool. There's definitely no getting around that. PHP has definitely been much better in the recent days with newer versions. PHP 7 is supposed to be really fast. Okay, so let's fix the text message bit. So socket on new message. We have to do this here. So we have to emit a new object. So we'll say username, a phone. We could send part of the phone number back, but I don't want to deal with that right now. And then message will be body. Cool. So if we restart this again, Unicode's working. All right, let's fix this. So the reason we changed our message structure and we didn't update the server part of it. Oh, there we go. So emoji works. Yay, emojis. Very cool. So let's see. Sorry about the Unicode. So much Unicode. I just put HTML characters. Don't tell anyone. We have Twitch Twitch engineer in the chat. Tell him about how you're breaking Twitch. That's great. Put a blank space. That will definitely work. Yes. Escaping the ampersand. Would you say that Java would be a good starter code language to learn? Thank you. So Java is definitely not a bad language to learn. It's what they teach in school. The thing about Java is it's very object oriented. So it teaches you it forces you to do things in a very object oriented way, so you can learn a lot about how it works. It's a great programming language. The ecosystem around Java can be very daunting, especially if you want to do fun things. You have to learn like more tools than you'd like to. You have to learn about build tools. But for learning programming, Java is great. It's definitely what they teach in most schools now. And if you learn Java, you can do Android. So Android is a lot of fun too. So Flash. Does anyone have any other questions? Please drop them into chat. We're definitely winding on down with the stream here. Thank you all so much for joining. Some great resources for getting started with programming. We said we'd talk about that. So codeacademy.com is one of my favorite resources to point beginners to. It is a free website. You can go and learn all about how to build different things. They have a bunch of different skills on here. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python, Ruby. You see I have played with a few. I completed something. This is probably SQL. I think I took a course on SQL, 12 days ago. So codeacademy.com is great. So beginners, definitely check that out. Twilio.com/blog. Definitely have to plug that, even though I work for Twilio obviously and write stuff on there. But there's a lot of content on how to do different frameworks, different languages. So definitely check out some of the blog posts on there. There's tons of great videos on YouTube. YouTube's great. when I like to talk to beginners about learning how to program, I like to tell them to think more project oriented. So think about something that you want to build, and narrow it down to something very small, something very concise, like a low scope. And as you're learning more programming languages, more about programming, you slowly like look up and learn how to do different parts of the application different ways. So I think project-based approaches are great. Some of the great like learn how to code sites. Programming is a great skill to have. It's very similar no matter what language you go or what you're doing. It's the same kind of constructs and same kind of structures. So with JavaScript, we have if statements, and that's like a very well-known construct somewhere. Like here we had an if statement. It just checks if something is true. So spend some time. Like I said, I can't recommend Codecademy enough. Khan Academy is great as well. Khan Academy has a ton of programming resources on there. Definitely check out Khan Academy. I'm sure you've heard it before. And thank you, Brent, for the assist. Twilio is an API for you to build pretty rad web apps with communications. An API is just a way to share something that you've built as a developer for other developers so they can use the same kind of functionality. So we don't reinvent the wheel every time. Twilio has an API for SMS, which is how we're doing this pretty cool like phone text messagey thing there. So I just sent a text message. The text message hits that phone number. Someone actually is hanging up the server, actually. I think that's what's happening. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, let's fix that real quick. So we're going to stop printing out the message in the server, and then it will stop breaking. So let's get rid of that. And this should stop breaking there. The reason is the Unicode characters don't print out that well in the terminal. So things should work now. Okay, great. So yeah, Twilio makes it easy for you to do things with like phones. So the example we have is this phone number we bought. The phone number we configure with the URL. And when a text message comes into this phone number, Twilio will just send an HTTP request to my web server, which lives here. And inside the server, we can just pull out the body of the text message and send some instructions back to Twilio. It's like, hey, send a text back. So yeah, Twilio is an API for communications. We'll definitely talk more about it. Check out the streams that Brent posted. There's a lot you can learn about different things. Anyone have any other questions? Stop saying, yeah, I'm bad like that. Does anyone, any other questions, please drop them into chat. I shared some great resources on learning how to program. If someone wants to see something specific or something else added to our application, let me know. For those of you who have just joined us, you can go to our website that we built here. It's a live chat room. I'm dropping into the chat. Other than that, I think we're going to start heading out in a bit. I think we built... Oh, I should share the code again. Let's see. There we go. So this is the... Oh, I should push up the new feature so we can have that too. Yeah, so get status. Add username. So I just Git is a tool to let you version out your code into different like levels and checkpoints, and it's a great way to share your code. I just pushed the new code that I have up to the website so everyone can get at it. So I'll drop that into chat right there. And that's everything we built today. So let's see. I'm gonna wrap that up. Is this still working? Yeah, it's still working. Cool. Right. So yeah, if there's no other questions, I think we're going to head on out. But if someone wants to see something else, please let us know in the chat. Happy to talk about getting started with programming or experiences or answer any questions, just interact with me. Let's see. In the meantime, actually, let's do something else while this is running. I'm curious how many people actually texted in to our phone number. So I'm going to pull out the number of unique people that have texted in. So so we'll just call this count.js. How do I get started programming? So we shared some great resources. I'll link to them again. My favorites are Codecademy. So if you go to codecademy.com, this is they have great different tracks for JavaScript, HTML. You can learn tons of different things. Khan Academy is another great website. Check this one out. There's tons of YouTube channels. Let's see. Thank you for joining us, Zangold. Very cool. What do you do at Twitch, Zangold? Are you a software developer? Let's see. Okay, so we're gonna 01 Nickel J. Thank you so much for following. So we're going to turn on strict mode again. I'm going to install the Twilio library. So now we're going to so in the past, we've been interacting with Twilio by Twilio interacting with us with what we call a webhook, which is Twilio reaching out to our web server. Now we're going to use Twilio's actual REST API. So we're going to reach out to Twilio and initiate and ask Twilio for information. So I'm installing the library to use Twilio. So I'm going to require it here, and I'm just I want to get a count of everyone who's texted in, because I'm just curious. So requiring the Twilio library, we're going to get an instance of that. So we're going to call it client. And we're going to initialize it. This is where you'd pass in your username and password to use Twilio, but mine are configured with like environment variables, so like system-wide variables that are accessible, so it's pulling them in automatically. So we can do our client, and we can list messages that were sent to our phone number. So I'm going to grab phone number, and I'm going to set the page size to 1,000 so we can get a lot of them. And this will return a promise with a response, which is just like a fancy JavaScript asynchronous thing. And not reps, we're going to resp. Ooh, I did it again. And then we're going to take our, we're going to log out our response dot messages dot size. And if we run this, we should see a number. Oh, I did something wrong. Oh, it's not size, it's length. Derp. Creepin' Bro, thank you for following. So size is used for sets in JavaScript, which is another list type. It lets you do like unique things. So we're just going to use length for now. And this should print out 42. Very cool. We had 42 text messages sent in. That's awesome. So thank you all for hanging out with us. Let me check this out real quick. You are a software breaker, Zancold. Very cool. I think inherently we are all software breakers. That's for sure. Golden AJ, thank you for joining. What kind of programming do you do mostly? Very curious. Someone built an awesome chat app with Twitch integration. Let's open that up in a second. Where's your turbo? I want to make my own SMS service using Arduino GS. That's very cool. That would be a ton of fun. And have a hidden badge. It's an option. Makes sense. My internet crashed. Thank you for doing the stream, sir. Well, thank you so much for joining. So I'm going to be signing off. Thank you for hanging out. Golden AJ, thank you for following. If you want to get notified or whatever when I stream every other week, I think. I might do more, we'll see. But from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. So I won't be doing next week, but the week after. My buddy Brent, who's in the chat, does a ton of streaming. I think we need to get like a site with all of our schedules on it somewhere, Brent. So we should get that up. And my buddy Sam, the weeks that I don't stream the same time he streams, so he'll be doing next week, which is at, I think it's SAGNU. Let me put that in chat real quick. But thank you all so much for hanging out. Like I said, I am signing off if no one has any other questions. And yeah, it's been a hoot, actually. This was a lot of fun. So hopefully you all learned something. I'll post a code one more time so everyone has it. And hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on the internet, so let me know if I can help with anything. And Brent just posted a link to our team page. We definitely need to get a schedule up on when everyone's going. Do you do side work for small projects? I generally don't do much side work. I wish I had time to. The most stuff I do is just open source, and I do a lot of teaching, a lot of education, so I work with students a lot. I teach children how to program on weekends through this thing called Coder Dojo sometimes. But yeah, happy to help with anything. All right, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for all joining me. Hope you all have a great night. Cheers.